Hello, everyone. I am Aqsa Taylor, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Abstract Security. Joined with me today is Alan Czarnecki, and he has a really interesting story. He has years of experience working in cybersecurity, but not only that, he started with electrical engineering, actually similar, same as me, and then he transitioned from electrical engineering, control systems, and detections to a cybersecurity career. So I'm really excited to share his story with you. And I'm also going to interview him on his contributions to the data strategy paper, the data strategy book, and what motivated him, what's his background, and how it helped him to relay what he did in the book. So I'm really excited. This is totally unscripted, so we're just gonna go with the flow. And Alan doesn't know what I'm gonna ask him. This is gonna be a fun conversation that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I am. Alan, to start with, you gave me some really good background on how you started your career in cybersecurity. Do you mind just quickly telling our readers what the transition looked like? Because I'm sure a lot of viewers have this question in their mind. Hey, I didn't start in security. Is there a course in college I need to take to get into cybersecurity? Is there a boot camp? Is there certifications? What was the journey like for you?
Well, great question, and thanks for having me. Glad to be here. I graduated electrical engineering in a small school, Beaumont, Texas, called Lamar, and started working for a company called Accurate, which was industrial automation. And from there, that company got bought out, and uh, but I did software. I basically, by the time that job kind of evolved over the years, I got into software big time, right? It's all about software. And eventually made my way over to a large insurance company over time from engineering. I think in engineering, what was important about, especially, I moved from software into security ultimately. So engineering is the degree with all the math and science and the ability to think that people want to see, right? And just solve problems basically.
Right.
And then from there through, you don't actually practice what we thought we were going to practice when we started doing that kind of work. And that's okay. It really is. So I think I feel very fortunate in that I have a lot of formal background in math and science. And I also got a master's degree on that journey in electrical engineering too. And I think one of the things I would like to bring out of that also is the linear algebra that I know you're familiar with. Matt, do you remember MATLAB? Do you remember doing MATLAB in school? Right.
Signals and
So Matt,
projects.
yeah, MATLAB is this like amazing kind of set of software that lets you do math and solve
Yeah.
problems, and it goes from there to you actually use it. They teach engineers how to use it in school, and
Mhm.
then you actually I learned it initially and learned of it, and work like engineers using it, and I just fell in love with it, and so that was the if you want to, I think one of the things maybe you're looking to bring out that you said you want to see, maybe I can bring out is, find things you love in the journey, and kind of when you find them again, stick with them, or build on them. And that's kind of where I've ultimately landed here with where I'm at now, is I'm writing software again, but we're not using MATLAB these days. We're using Python, right? And we're doing data analysis with Python tools. At least that's what I'm getting to do. And I think that journey, I think having a foundation and formal foundation in math and science is something. While I have this opportunity to talk to people and influence them, I would say do it. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. You don't have to live it. You don't have to love it, but it's very useful to have at certain times, and especially because where we're trying to take security, the team is that I'm on right now, is
Yeah.
we have these ways for solving problems, right? Security problems and entail logs, and
Yeah.
bringing structure to basically unstructured data is what we're trying to do. And then not just structure, but it's gleaning information out of those logs in a real-time manner, in an effective manner on an incident response, right? We need to know now what happened 2 hours ago. And being able to go at a set of data that's so diverse from multiple different sources with varying bits of clarity about where this all fits together and how this all fits together is a journey we're all on here. And that's why I think I wanted to get involved with this. First of all, I'm lucky to be on that journey within a given company. I think it's an interesting and super useful uh, topic to talk about, in this business, because every place this is again where I'm really hesitant to talk and contribute too much to this paper, because I feel the team of people that comprise the authors of this paper and the people that from the group that we were talking about earlier that comprise this effort, have a wealth of experience and knowledge that far exceeds, any this individual for sure. So what I contributed to the paper was very specific, I think, and it's really been what I've been practicing the past few years is data, bringing structure to data and assimilating data. But it's mainly so far been primarily within our vendors, our security vendors, and interacting with their systems and grabbing their data. But that's also a bunch of in-house systems, right? And one of the things from just looking at the paper, the copy of the paper I got to see earlier today from Justin, was the team and Justin have great experience in the cloud. And I defer totally to these guys because I could see that they are differentiating cloud from, resident data sources, right? Which is really important to do. They're all different and specific. And I think again, I don't have the wealth of experience of a lot of the others in the teams, but the experience I do have, I started doing security in a huge monolithic company that's very old and has a lot of structure. And I saw how things work there. And I've got to move to a different company that's smaller, much more agile, much more effective, and much more innovative. So I've seen two extremes, right? I'm on the extremely good side right now. I was on an extremely different side for more than 10 years. And
I'll pause because you've mentioned some really good highlights there. But one, you're selling yourself short when you say, I don't have as much experience. I mean, Alan, you were there since the beginning. Well, about when people were still figuring out internet and how to digitize their assets. So you definitely brought a lot of good insights to the book, and I'm really grateful for that. I want our viewers to know Alan was just selling himself short when he said, I don't have much experience or didn't contribute much. He was very valuable to the paper.
Thank you.
Second thing I think I really wanted to emphasize and highlight how you mentioned find something you love and explore it and just dive into it. So if you're looking for starting a career in cybersecurity, don't be overwhelmed with everything that's out there. There's a lot of things in cybersecurity. There's data, there's that, and just find a niche, find something that makes you passionate. Just like Alan said, from MATLAB to Python, it's just translating to a different language as long as you know the blocks, the fundamentals. So something you like, and if we can do it, you can do it too. It's not impossible, and it's something that if it's something that inspires you, don't be afraid because of all the words and all the complexities people tell there is out there. Just find something you like and go for it. Now, Alan, let's talk about the data strategy piece of it. Can you tell us a little bit about what were the challenges as you started working with these organizations? Because you worked with a monolithic organization and also with a company that had more microservices and flexibility and dynamic environment. So can you tell us a little bit more about that transition? What were the challenges in A versus B and how you resolved them?
Well, really good question. I think one of the problems with large companies that we all fight in them is processes and procedures getting put in place that over time aren't gone back and reviewed, and because they become roadblocks at times for issues that shouldn't really be like it's hard to get. Give a really good explanation without specifics, but the structure that is a big company and impedes development and innovation would be the summary of that. I think the difference, I wasn't able to overcome, I wasn't able to convince all the architects, or at least a few key architects I tried to, that these were good things we were trying to do and give us the access to these systems and let us do automation. Don't force these old manual processes. Let us do automation. These kinds of just things that in this world I'm in now are not even considered problems. They are, become our big problems, and in companies that are insurmountable, basically, because there's these structures of management that get into big companies that really don't understand technical problems, and therefore, issues are just, no, you can't do that because XYZ, right? So this, unfortunately, I'm not going to go deeper into that because it's not worth it, right? It's the bureaucracy that is a large company gets it. It's just they become their own worst enemy over time. I think if you interview and talk to others, as you do, you'll find that's a common thread that even, they don't even want to admit when they're inside of it. You don't want to admit that you're not effective as a group of people trying to accomplish a mission, but in reality it is. So bottom line, I think one of the things is, one of the things I do want to say is also about what this whole journey, after that I really like that you're trying to help people get started, is it's the way you treat people in life that make the difference, right? This is all that matters. There's technical stuff, and there's data acquisition, and there's large and small companies, and there's technical problems, and then there's the problems of getting along in life and working with people and being humble and being open to saying, oh shoot, I messed up, right? And how do you do that? And finding people and embracing people that like that encourage that, and that respond to that, right? I think I only got to this point, I think, because of my relationships that I've evolved. It wasn't because, okay, there were some things that I know Jerry and Ryan have seen that I've done. And I think that's what you need to do in life if you're young, is prove to some people, go out in conferences, do papers, write about what you're doing. Hell, just think something up and go do it. That's what I did at a big company, right? I took MIST and thought up, let me just do some more graphing. It does wonderful graphing things. Let me go do some more things. Let me redo it myself and add some things I want in there. And guess what? I did that, and I just had fun with it, and it really did some cool things for the company. It found some stuff, and it got me recognized, and I did a paper, and I got to come and work with wonderful people. That, not that I didn't work with wonderful people where I was. I think the difference is these are wonderful people that build, we hold each other up, right? We're all on the same team. So I think that's the real kind of, if you want a message, I can talk to you about technical things. I think the difference between people and the people that you want to work with, or you be nice, good things, karma is real.
Yeah. For
right?
sure. And I really like how you said it's the people aspect as well. Cybersecurity is a community. And though that sometimes it's hard to remember that as we're with competing products or competing services. But at the end of the day, it's all people, whether it's a salesperson or a CISO. I think it's important to treat them both respectfully, not just because, one is vendor and one is client. Really love that you highlighted that aspect of it. And speaking of challenges, I think you highlighted something that's a very good point to be made here, which is the processes, and not just processes, technical processes, but the rigidity to change, or the resistance that you get to bringing change in larger organizations. Or it can just be any organization that's not flexible to accept ideas or accept changes to their processes. And that ends up impacting things like automations and approvals and the speed of access to data or systems that you need to ensure you have good security. So I think one of the bottlenecks as our readers go through the book to understand is that having an open mind to listening to your teams, to listening to cross-functional teams like security or management or business needs and financial needs, and being open to change, because this industry always changes. In security, we see ChatGPT, AI, quantum, like there's always something new and we have to adapt to it. Now, another thing you mentioned was also how contributing to things that you love led you to the team of people that you really love working with today. Can you tell me a little bit about the characteristics of a good data strategy team? Like, what kind of skills do you need in people and team and an organizational culture? Of course, flexibility being one that we touched upon a little bit, but what kind of backgrounds or skills or things do you think make up a good team of data strategy or data team and security team, also making sure there's security angle to it, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
It's a really good question. I think that we all work in real isolations here, right? We have data specialists, let's say, analysis specialists that are spread across an enterprise, right? And I think one of the things to be able to do is, again, to be on a team, in this journey that is life and through work and security, is finding teams of people that are engaged, that are on your side, that are, do want to see you succeed, and then working with them. And then it's people who who have the ear of those that matter, right? The executive level folks that really are our sponsors for all of this stuff. When you bring all that and get all that lined up at that high level, then it becomes this issue of finding the right context, for this certain set of data within the enterprise that holds all of these keys and all of this great information, for instance, right? And then kind of learning how to interact with those folks. So I don't, to be honest, I think we all come with different backgrounds, right? We all have a lot of formal, relational database backgrounds. So it's what I think I find in a lot of the folks across an enterprise that I'm interacting with. So I think by the time you get to those missions, so to speak, and those events, projects that you're working on, you have a common language and vocabulary already with the folks. And so it's really, it becomes the back and forth again, the people aspect of this. We get access to your data, we start pulling your data, and that's great. Life is good, but then there's all these considerations about the data. There's the incremental nature of it, and then the functionality. What is the purpose of this data? Why did you form it this way, and what are you doing with it? Because that doesn't help me. What I really need is this, right? And I need it to look like that, and we have to merge these two data sets of yours together to get this synthetic data object that I want to play with, right? And we need to form. So it's a really good question. It goes back to our formal, our fundamental background educations of, we can converse and okay, I do things in Python and I do things in data frames and pandas. Okay, there's a normalization that occurs of all the data sources and a pipeline through which it flows. And that pipeline is, for me, is Python and pandas and data frames, basically, is a common denominator we talk about, right? And I think I don't have to talk with the guy at the other end of this conversation about that. What I do, when I can present the tabular table of data that shows the question that I'm trying to ask him, he works with Excel. He works with relational databases and Oracle and God knows what else, right? That I don't have a clue about, but we can communicate because we're talking about data and its properties and its value and its usage and things like that. So forgive me I don't feel I answered your question really well, but I think it at the end of the story, it comes down to communications. And
Yeah.
I don't understand everything somebody's saying sometimes, but I'm not afraid to say I don't understand
Yeah.
either. It can help me, and we'll figure it out.
And absolutely, I think you also mentioned a key point here is that the end users of data can be many different categories, the security and management and so on. So without proper bridges between them, it can become chaotic, right? Like you're collecting all this data, but you are not able to translate them to either business needs or security needs, and then there is that gap. So on that front, like what are your like for someone who is looking to either mature their existing data strategy or trying to start from scratch, I know this is something we've kind of tried to do with this book too. What would you say your advice would be as they just start? Like, what's the first thing they need to get into their mind as they start this journey?
Sure, I can, the examples I live my life by are the best, and it takes a champion. You have to have a principal engineer who has the ear of the CISO or again the executive leadership, and that principal engineer has a vision, and he wants to do something. He's already created systems that are in production that are functioning and protecting their enterprises as we speak. But he sees has a vision of where he wants to go and questions the leadership asks that can't be answered these days that they need, we do, and then views of the data and patterns that we know are in the data that we want to see. You have to have that champion, to be very honest. That is the one thing. There has to be because here's the deal. I'm in the middle of a long timeline effort, right? And I think what we're contemplating here is where all these AI efforts that we hear about, huge percentages of them fail because the data coming into them isn't structured enough, isn't well worked over enough for it to be useful in an enterprise, right? So I think we're literally being, again, surrounding yourself and becoming surrounded by folks that understand this is a long-term journey, that we need to, we're just security, but we are working within enterprise, but we can communicate with all these. You have to have champions in all of this, because you're not going to, unless you really come up with a quick win and it's not infeasible to do that, but the journey is long to bring a lot of data to bear and a lot of structure and usefulness of that data to bear takes time. And I think again, the most important thing to me is being surrounded by people to get that understand that. Because again, big companies, rug getting pulled out from under us. We've been there. I mean, we've all been there of projects we put our heart and soul into, and then the rug gets pulled out because a new guy comes in and he wants to do something else. And there you go.
And that nerve, do you have any like war stories to share? Like maybe from CISOs who didn't understand how, the data processes work and oh, you're smiling, so I'll let you emphasize on that.
I've got to hit. Yeah, that's where I got to heed your advice on that, because I don't know who will be viewing this, but I think I just kind of alluded to the real use case of, it's interesting. Security vendors provide solutions that management and financial businesses at times look at as, nirvana. This is the solution to everything. All I need is, okay, I'm going to call it out. All I need is Splunk, right? And Splunk is going to solve the whole world's problems with security at this institution. And this guy's in the right place at the right time to convince some people above him that that's what needs to happen. Well, we all know that product costs buku bucks, and to get the funding for that, you got to cut something, and so all these other things get cut. So I think again, you have to have consistency in leadership, and that's that's not under our control in any way, shape, or form, right? In our security, but when you get lucky enough to get in a company with consistency across the executive ranks and who believe in their teams, and you get that time you need, you can produce solutions. So we were this close. On my one example I'm thinking of in particular that really grinded my gears, we were this close to getting something going that we've been working on for months, and it literally just got shut down in a matter of a conversation. And it was kind of like no justification because you couldn't even ask those things. So to be on, these things happen, I do know these things happen, and we're all still getting paid, but we're engineers, we put our heart and souls into these projects, and we don't expect them to die. If they're going to die, they need to die because we failed, right? Not because we weren't given the chance to succeed. And so those are the kinds of things. I don't know how to, I think it's the worlds you put yourself into or find yourself in, right? You know what I'm saying when I say that is really the driver of a lot of how this unfolds.
I guess the advice you would have for CISOs who are, starting their careers or taking over organizations or moving to a different organization is to look beyond the noise. Look beyond the noise from vendors and look beyond the noise of bureaucracy and really staying tuned with the security teams and security needs. But let me hear it in your words.
No, that's it. Keep your eye, keep your nose down and keep focusing on the problems and solutions, and keep asking keep asking hard questions. If you want to succeed technically in this world, you find good people to work with, technicals, engineers, and then leaders, like the team you're on, the team I'm on. These are people that get it. And I think this is ultimately, Aqsa, this is ultimately the differentiator of how much you like life and enjoy life, really.
And I think a lot of people would resonate with it. I do, because at the end of the day, your careers may change, your companies may change, your titles may change, but your relationships and how you treat people, the impressions you leave behind are
Right.
what remains of you, or how
Absolutely.
I remember you. So whether you're in a really high position and maybe you're taking it for granted, or you're in a low position and you're wondering what your next step is, just treat people like people, right? And you'll get to where everything will work out eventually. Now, talking about and that's essentially what you're helping do here with your contributions to the book too, which is completely vendor agnostic. It's not about a product or a tool or a platform. It's really a guide for anyone who is wanting to understand data and how to start a data strategy or assess their maturity, kind of like the fundamental building blocks. What is something that really excites you about this book and the content that we're writing?
I think we're on the verge. I think it's on the verge. It's helping guide people into the world I want us to be in, that I'm trying to build here, which is there's data, and then there's analysis and interpretation of the data. The vendor systems usually provide both. Yet a given incident responder in a given company has a plethora of systems and screens to look across, and different systems to learn, and all their idiosyncrasies as they change over time. And it just becomes really kind of a battle of staying up on all the latest changes in the systems that you use. I think the journey is, I'm trying to standardize and bring data into a more of a generic way and use generic tools. Again, back to MATLAB, which we don't do now, we do Python now, right? And so let's do data frames. So I can do analysis, and so data flows from its sources, through Python pipelines, doing ETL into endpoint databases. In my case, it's Neo4j these days because we're doing graphical stuff, right? But I brought structure, and all the things in the paper that the team is talking about are being done in that journey, right? But then there's the thing is, this is a security program, and we're within a big company doing IT and doing business, most importantly, not security. So we have to realize who's the dog and who's the tail of the dog, right? And so there's these guidelines that are in this document about this is the way and these are really cool guidelines. I was reading the paper this morning some, and I haven't seen it in a while, and I like it a lot. I think there's also recognizing this is the way it needs to be done, and this is the target objective, goal state approach. Yet there's this big structure within which we're working, that we have to figure out how to make that journey across those two. So bridging that gap between those two is this human journey, that makes it all very, very tough. God, I don't know that answered the question, but I
Absolutely. And I love how you focus on the human aspect of it as well, because a lot of times we get so caught up in just technicalities of things and tools that we forget that all of them need humans and behind the wheels. And if you don't have, like you mentioned earlier, good communication or good synchronization with leadership and the end users of data, it can cause you bottlenecks. And I think what I really love about this book is that we brought in so many different backgrounds, people from different industries and backgrounds, and who are just passionate, right? It's not like a paid source or anything. It's just because all of you were passionate about this topic and you wanted to help from the lessons you learned yourself for someone not have to go through it over again and have like a template, right, to start with.
yeah, yes, and kind of combining that with your last question that I'm thinking about a little bit more is, we've got these very unique particular systems from vendors that we're using right now. Let's find more generic approaches and common approaches that span the context, right? So I can see tools we build ourselves, just put the data into structured form, which is what this document that we're talking about is all about. And it helps you on that journey, but realize that's only the start of the journey. The next part of the journey is how you interpret that data. And it does touch on that in some of these things. It's in this paper to some degree, but I think finding a common, right? You know what the world has done with MATLAB, the way we learn it in school, and the way from there to the way we use it and to solve problems in the real world. And I think this is the same kind of thing I'm trying to teach, and I hope eventually this security and data analysis in general becomes more common, that we use these common tools of we just shape the data and reshape the data into forms such that we can ingest it into either a Neo4j graphical database or probably, on that journey, a Python data frame structure, because if you've got to work with data frames yet, they're just tabular structures, but they're most wonderful. And for you who have worked with some of these older systems, some of these, Python came into being because of MATLAB. It emulated it. That's kind of was its journey, and it solved it greatly. What the price is for MATLAB? It's crazy, and always has been. So Python free, and then so it's a brilliant world we've lived in over the last 30 years or so, and that we've gone journey from commercial software that only a few key people could get their hands on to, here's generic tools to solve these problems. And I think that's really where I'm at. And I'm lucky enough to be on a team and be on a team with visionaries who are, willing to let us see how far we can take that. And while I'm rambling wildly here, some of the stuff in this paper talks about it talks about a lot of ideal stuff. I think, again, for practitioners, what's important is to realize that's the target, that's the limit as we approach, right? The real world is, I start with the data sources I have in the business I'm in, and I work with the people I have, and we slowly start piecing this together. I'm comfortable with, because it's a long journey. There's a lot of different people. Data can take a lot of structures. There's, again, I alluded to a little bit in the paper. One of the things that speeds that journey is usage of open source tools that do solve the problems of data transfer by bringing structure, and then there's some open source systems that I'm not going to name, maybe I can, that I probably actually already did earlier, that they provide the transfer mechanisms intrinsically. All I got to do is get the data in there and define a target and a source and a sink, and I can move data. When you're the one of the few people on a team trying to assimilate a huge set of data sources, having a vendor and teams that can talk in this common data format, right? Sticks is one. I'm really talking about MISP right now. There's other examples of this. So people who are listening to this, who've been around, know exactly what I'm talking about. But for practitioners, it speeds up that journey long term if you can solve these problems that way. Because otherwise, the data these things that are in this paper are not trivial to do. There's only a few words describing normalization of data. Normalization of data can take a long time, and it's unique to each data source at times, right? So these things are not trivial to realize, is what I'm saying. So using and leveraging tools that simplify, I don't want to learn another API. I just want the data, right? So, but if I had to do the API, fine. But if I can just go grab the data and they can just give me some URLs and I hook my system up to it and go pull it, and then I pull back structured data that I then begins my journey of analysis, right? That's where I want to start. I don't want, look for those opportunities.
Totally. Well, I really love learning from you, Alan, and learning from real use cases, right? Your experience is not just like a theoretical, but actually you live through them. You learn to-dos and what not to-dos and what's best, what's not best. So thank you so much for sharing all of that so frankly with us. Before we wrap up, any conclusion words, anything you'd like to tell to not just our viewers, but also the readers who will be reading our book once it's launched, anything that you'd like to tell them?
It's a great journey. It's a great time to be alive in this world especially doing data analysis. I think security data analysis, we're on the verge of, we haven't talked about it, but all the structure that we're bringing together is we're going to feed into LLMs, right? Large language models here soon, and we're going to start kind of venturing into these different cool realms of, now I don't have to write an algorithm when I can structure data, right, and write my prompts. I become prompt engineers, right? We become prompt engineers. And so I think this is the journey that we're on the verge of going onto, and it's within our control. I think don't depend, don't, vendors are doing it and they're wonderful. They're brilliant people doing great things, but you know what? You are too. So don't sell yourself short. Go out there and get some formal education and go do some things that are interesting. And yeah, wherever you start and whatever you learn in school means nothing as to where you end up. So be nice to people and you'll go far. And thank you for the opportunity, Aqsa and Justin and everyone else for this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alan. And thank you to all our viewers who have listened to this and who are going to download our book. We're really excited, as you can tell. A lot of passion has gone into this book, a lot of knowledge sharing. And I hope as you read this book, you enjoy reading it as much as we've enjoyed writing it. Thank you.